Hello and welcome back to another video on the Football Zone and to a reviewing Premier League and Championship action. Sorry for the Championship action, maybe slightly late, but just with crazy fixture around schedule, kind of has to be this way. But there we go, moving straight into the games then. West Ham 0, Brentford 2 was the score on, I can't really remember what day it was, at the London Stadium, Christmas time. Ivan Toney and De Silva with the goals, all in the first half. And yeah, Brentford picking up the win here, and you'd have to say, they deserved it. And West Ham, though, this was such a disappointing receipt, and the concerns are only growing now, and pressure is really starting to build on Moyes. But moving on then to Liverpool 2, Leicester 1 at Anfield. And yeah, what a disaster this was for Wout Faes. Dewsbury Hall gave Leicester lead in the fourth minute, some awful defending from Liverpool. But yeah, Wout Faes, I think he had some of his own shocking defending, really, it's fair to say. The 38th and the 45th minute, two own goals in the space of 7 minutes. And yeah, he had a shocker, but Liverpool for me did deserve the win here. We're just about the best side, but Leicester played so well in that first, so I think they will be frustrated by how they conceded, really. Moving on then to Wolves 0, Manchester United 1 at Molineux, and the only goal of the game was from Marcus Rashford in the 76th minute. He also had a goal this lad 8 minutes later, but in the end United, they kind of had to wait patiently, but in the end they got their reward. Marcus Rashford of course dropped for oversleeping, fair enough, but I mean he definitely made amends for it, didn't they? Got United out of trouble, and that's a big win for them. Wolves will be frustrated because that would have been a huge point as they continue to push to stay up under Lopetegui. But yeah, for Manchester United they'll be delighted with that. Moving on then to Newcastle 0, Leeds 0 at St James's Park, and yeah, Newcastle in this one really piled on the pressure to get the winner, but in the end they couldn't do it. For Leeds, that's a great point as well in their battle kind of against relegation, but for Newcastle, after being such great form, I think it's again they feel like they could have won, but then again their form's been so great recently, they kind of were due an off day, and I think that's kind of what you can class this as. So yeah, frustrating for Newcastle, but what a great point for Leeds that was. But moving on then to Manchester City 1, Everton 1 at the Etihad, and yeah, who else but Erling Haaland in the 24th minute with a goal, but Damari Gray equalised in the 64th minute, and yeah, City, what a great result this was for Everton, but for City, more frustrating. They were dominating in this game, really, as you'd expect, but in the end Everton held firm. That's a crucial part for them, and City, with Arsenal playing so well, really they just can't afford to drop any more points from here on in, but great point for Everton. Moving on then to Fulham 2, Southampton 1, this really was heartbreak for Nathan Jones and his men. Funny game for James Ward-Prowse. He scored in the 32nd minute for Fulham with an own goal, but then scored an exquisite free kick in the 56th minute. But Southampton hearts were broken, in the 88th minute through Paulinho in the 88th minute. Mitrovic missed a penalty in the 96th minute, but in the end Fulham held on for the victory. And yeah, a game of even proportions, but Fulham just edged out. That kind of Southampton's luck at the moment, so disappointing for them, but for Fulham a big relief, and their win learns and keep on going. Moving on then to Bournemouth 0, Crystal Palace 2 at the Vitality. Ayew and Eze with the goals, and yeah, in the end a comfortable win for Crystal Palace. This was a really poor display from Bournemouth, totally outclassed here, but for Palace, big win for them after a tough defeat against Fulham last week. So they'll be absolutely delighted with that in 11th, but Bournemouth kind of slipping down the table now. I think it's 6 defeats in 7, so yeah, that's not really great, and they do need to start picking up some form now, because yeah, they're definitely getting sucked into a relegation battle now, aren't they? Moving on then to Brighton 2, Arsenal 4 at the Amex, and yeah, Saka and Odegaard in the 2nd and 39th minute with 2 goals, and Ketia made it 3 just after half time before Vitória pulled one back in the 65th minute, but Martinelli made it 4-1 in the 71st, Ferguson in the 77th minute 4-2, and then Brighton had a goal this time in the 89th minute. There were a few chances, but kind of just left it too late, and Arsenal keep on their fantastic momentum, 7 points clear. It's suddenly looking really good for them. Moving on then to the games on New Year's Day, Tottenham 0, Aston Villa 2 at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, White Hart Lane, whatever it's called. Emily Buendia in the 50th minute and Douglas Luiz in the 73rd minute. And yeah, for Villa, what an amazing performance this was. And yeah, it's fair to say that they absolutely deserved this win. They outclassed Tottenham even when they were 1-up, and they were still piling on the pressure, a little more like team. And Philly's there when Conte's getting angry, and yeah, his frustration is really starting to show, because Tottenham, they were just nowhere near good enough in this game. Moving on then to another top team that really weren't good enough. Nottingham Forest 1, Chelsea 1. Sterling in the 16th minute gave Chelsea the lead, but Aurier in the 63rd minute levelled things up, and yeah, from there on in, Forest were the better team really in the second half, definitely. Pushed for the winner, in the end couldn't get one, and Chelsea in the end were forced to settle for the point. And yeah, it just shows Chelsea and Graham Boss is just not where they need to be at the moment. For Forest, this is a hugely encouraging display ahead of a massive 6 points coming up for them against Southampton. Moving on then to the Championship action, and starting off with QPR 0, Luton 3, and yeah, what a great result this was. For Luton, Carlson Morris in the 10th minute and in the 47th minute made it 2-0. Doherty in the 81st minute made it 3-0. And yeah, great result for them. Wasn't kind of stats kind of show it flattered them, but in the end Luton played really well, really finding some momentum under Rob Edwards now. But for QPR, yeah, really disappointing result. Moving on into Coventry 0, Cardiff 0 at the Coventry Ricoh Arena, that's the word. And yeah, Coventry, I think they'll be disappointed in this game really. They piled on the pressure, probably had more shots on goal, definitely, bit more possession. So yeah, I think, but for Cardiff, it was a really solid defensive display, and in the end they held on for a draw, which is a really good result for them, because you know they've been kind of struggling at the moment, but that's a really solid result for them, you have to say. But moving on then to Wigan 1, Sunderland 4 at the DW Stadium, and yes, Sims in the 19th minute gave Sunderland the lead, but Keane equalised just before half time. But Stewart, Roberts and Diallo in the second half made it 4-1 to Sunderland, and Sunderland really just laying down a marker at this point, because yeah, Wigan, let's face it, they're not the best team at the moment, and not great runner form, but you know, still this was really impressive by Sunderland. They are laying down a marker at the moment, and they have to be serious contenders to get in the playoffs now. Moving on then to another 0-0, Millwall 0, Bristol City 0 at the Den, and yeah, I think this is a game that Millwall will be disappointed with really. You know, there wasn't too much in it, but Millwall, they didn't have a shot on goal. Millwall, Bristol City only had 2, so you know, I think it's fair to say it wasn't the best game in the world. But yeah, Bristol City coming into this one with pressure really amping up on Nigel Pearson. They would have felt this is a game that Millwall could have gone and won, but Bristol City, good point for them, they need to start building some momentum with it, but Millwall, yeah, like I say, disappointing with that. Moving on then to Huddersfield 2, Rotherham 0 at the John Smith Stadium. Dwayne Holmes and Jordan Rhodes in the 31st and 56th minute with the goals. And yeah, Huddersfield coming into this one, I think it's kind of a bit of a 6 pointer for both these teams really down at the bottom of the table. And yeah, Huddersfield, there wasn't a lot in the game really, I'd say. Maybe Huddersfield just about edged it. But yeah, it's a huge win for them. But Rotherham, yeah, it really does feel like they're starting to get sucked into the relegation battle now, which is frustrating for them for sure. Moving on then to Blackburn, and they lost 2-1 at home to Middlesbrough. They were leading early on through a Hedges goal, but Falls equalised just after half time. And yeah, Jake Buckley was sent off for kicking the ball, for throwing the ball, at the Middlesbrough player's head. I'm not sure it was a red card, but in the rules it technically was. But yeah, I mean, it did seem like a bit over the top to me, but there we go. And Ronnie McCree made them pay 6 minutes later with a winner. Great result from Middlesbrough. Their momentum under carry continues. Blackburn kind of undone by, just a bit of a stupid action, really. Moving on then to West Brom, and they continued their great run of form under Carlos Corberán with a 2-0 win over Preston. Goal in the first half and in the second half to saw them get the win. And yeah, West Brom fully deserving the win here. They were the best team. And yeah, the momentum they got under Corberán is quite simply amazing where they are in the table, considering where they were in a few weeks ago. Yeah, really impressive stuff, it has to be said. I know he's delighted with it, but for Preston, once again, just in a poor run of form at the moment. Moving on then to Blackpool 1, Sheffield United 2 at Bloomfield Road. Sander Burge and McAtee made it 2-0 before Epiketa scored for Blackpool in the 55th minute to make the last half an hour or so rather nervy for Sheffield United. And Blackpool gave it a go, to be fair to them, but in the end Sheffield United held on. And yeah, for Blackpool, I think they will take some heart from a decent performance here, but you know, still right at the thick of the relegation battle. For Sheffield United, just about getting the job done, even when they're not playing well. And yeah, they've just got such a big gap at the moment, don't they? Moving on then to Swansea 4, Watford 0 at the Liberty Stadium. Pirro, Cullen, and Lasverde with the goals for Swansea. And yes, Swansea absolutely dominant here. Watford, I think we really saw the worst of them here. We could get 2 types of Watford, and yeah, it's definitely worse than. But for Swansea, this was definitely a surprising result after 8 games on the trot with bad results. So yeah, definitely came out of nowhere, but I think they'll be absolutely delighted with it. What a great result this was for them. And they need to build on it now, really, don't they? But moving on then to Stoke 0, Burnley 1 at the Bet365 Stadium, and the only goal again coming from Cullen in the 61st minute. And yeah, Burnley they weren't at their best here, I think it's fair to say, but in the end they just about got the win, maybe just about deserved it, but definitely weren't at their best here. But like I said with Sheffield United earlier, it's sign of a good team, really. And yeah, they got the job done, and they'll be absolutely delighted with it. But Stoke, I think they can take some heart from it, but frustrated not to get anything out of it as well, really. Moving on then to Norwich 1, Reading 1 at Carrow Road. First game in charge for Russell as interim manager, and they got off to a good start in the 53rd minute when Eder put them in front, but Andy Carroll from a penalty spot in the 83rd minute made it 1 apiece. And again with, let's face it, not a lot between the two sides really. A draw was definitely a fair result here. Reading, good away point for them. They're continuing good form under Paul Ince, but for Norwich, a game that they probably would have been targeting, but I would still say it was definitely an improvement from the dire days of Dean Smith towards the end of his tenure, really. But moving on then to Birmingham 0, Hull 1 at St Andrews, and the only goal of the game coming in the 77th minute from Oscar Estupiñán, and he seems to have a good vein in form recently, which is big for Hull because we know how good he can be when he's on form. And close game, but I would say one that just about Hull deserved to win. It's a big win for them because they try and get away from relegation trouble. Birmingham, I think this is a frustrating one. I think they definitely would have been targeting this game to get something out of. So I think they'll definitely be frustrated with it. But there we go, a great win for Hull here, it has to be said. But anyway guys, that's it for you. Thanks very much for watching. Until like, share, subscribe, those sorts of comments down below. Follow us and share for daily football news and conference calls. Greatly appreciated. Thanks very much for watching. Peace out.